Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Guys, welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady, where Karens mistake regular Joe Schmo customers as employees when they're not, and the stories are absolutely ridiculous. And in today's episode, OP tells a story where a Karen attacks her for not serving her, and it doesn't end well, guys. I hope you enjoy the crazy stories. Hit subscribe if you haven't, and as always, you can send or link your Reddit post to this email right here. Let's dive in, guys. So last night, I'm finishing up my shift as an EMT, and it's been a long and tiring one. The calls weren't bad, but there were a lot of them, and we were all over the damn county. So the shift is over, I change back into my comfy clothes, which are sweats, t-shirts, and a hoodie, and I head to the store to get something for dinner. I get there just in time, since they're closing in 10 minutes. I assure the cashier that I was just grabbing something really quick, and I go and pick up a lasagna from the frozen section. So I grab the lasagna and turn around to head to the checkout, when all of a sudden I hear a hem. And no, it wasn't a throat-clearing sound. It was someone actually saying it like they were reading it out loud. So I turn and look to see a woman, and she snaps off, "I need you to go to the back and get me a pack of frozen pretzels." I tell her I don't work here, and I point out where an employee just went behind an end cap. And that's when the woman snaps, "You do work here, and you need to stop being lazy and get me my pretzels." Again, I say I don't work here and turn to walk to the self-checkout. And she flips her lid. She storms off muttering something about lazy employees and managers. So I finish checking out and I'm grabbing my stuff and leaving when I see her again with her cart and a manager. And she yells, "There she is, that's the lazy bitch." And she starts marching towards me. I'm not even going to engage, so I hold up my receipt and my one item to the self-checkout girl and I just walk out. And all of a sudden, I hear the manager raising his voice saying, "Ma'am, ma'am, ma'am." And it turns out Karen left her cart behind and she stormed out of the store to confront me. I get in my car to drive off, but she's standing in front of it so I can't go anywhere. She's also giving me a tongue lashing that I'm too checked out to really pay attention to. And I'm already on my last nerve, and that's when the manager sticks his head out of the door and he hollers, "Ma'am." She then turns around and makes a hushing motion towards him. Again, he hollers, "Ma'am," and she hollers back saying, "I'm dealing with your employee since you are too useless to do it yourself." The manager bristles and says, "Madam." She then cuts him off with, "Shut the F up," screaming at the top of her lungs. So the manager shrugs and I watch him go back inside, fiddle with the locks, flip the sign to closed, and pull down the shades. As I'm watching this, she gets annoyed that I'm not paying my full attention to her, and she yells, "What the heck are you looking at that's so damned important to ignore me?" It's at this point I point to the shop and say, they just closed and locked the doors." Now I'm not sure what she screamed, since it was pretty incoherent, but she did run towards the door. Seeing my chance, I drove off, leaving her pounding on the door and cursing. Guys, I love how they just locked that crazy woman out of the store. And honestly, guys, I'm hoping to goodness that she left her purse or her phone or something on the shopping cart. Like something that'll inconvenience her, but that's so funny though. I'll handle your employee because you're too useless to do that. Like, calm down, Karen, calm down. Okay, so I'm telling you about one event, but I must have a retail face because I'm approached so often. I wear a suit at work, and when I go inside any shop on the way home, I leave my jacket in the car, so I'm just wearing a shirt and tie. I couldn't tell you how many times people assume I'm staff. If they're civil, I'm civil. If they're struggling, I'm helpful, but if they're rude, I have fun. Now, the reason I remember this one is because I've said all these things separately before, but this was the first time I got them all squeezed into one single interaction. It just went so perfectly, and I'm sure it'll never happen again. So I get called to a large supermarket to pick up birthday candles. I first saw the woman being very rude to another customer for no apparent reason. Imagine Rush Limbaugh in drag, and sorry to put that in your head. She was just impatient, and the other customer wasn't moving fast enough for her liking, so she was insulting her. She definitely ranked above a-hole, so let's call her D-bag for short. As I turned, I saw the missile lock in her eyes as she spotted me. She then galumps her way over, and I decide to enjoy it and settled on being deadpan literal as a plan. I looked away. The Karen says to me, "Excuse me?" And that's when I respond, "Why? What have you done?" Karen responds, "What?" At that, she paused for a second, looking like a dog that had been shown a card trick. And then she angrily asked, "Can you help me?" Again, I respond, "I couldn't possibly know. I don't know what you want." The Karen then says, "Where do you keep your eyelash curlers?" I tell her I don't keep them anywhere. "Yes, you do. I've seen them before." I tell her I'm certain I don't. I've never owned any. My eyelashes manage to bend all on their own. And with that response, Karen says, "Huh? What? No, idiot. I mean the shop. Where in the store are the eyelash curlers?" I tell her I haven't gotten a clue. She says, "Why not?" And I respond, "I refer you to my previous answer. I never use them." At this point, I can see that Karen's annoyed, and she says, "Ugh, are you trying to be stupid?" And with that I respond, "No, it's actually effortless." She says, "This is insane. Are you going to find out where the eyelash curlers are, or would you prefer that I speak to your manager?" I tell her I'd say neither, but if I had to choose, I would go for option B. And she responds, "What? You want me to speak to your manager?" I tell her no. She then shakes her head in angry confusion and she says, "You just said you did." I tell her, "No, I didn't. You asked me which I would prefer. Like, if I was offered a rectal exam or a slap in the face, I don't want either, but I'd prefer the second to the first. See how that works?" At that, Karen stood in silence for a few seconds with her mouth open and the deepest frown. She then built up to a shout saying, "This is ridiculous." I tell her I completely agree. She then says, "Where's your manager?" I tell her I'm not exactly sure, but my guess would be at home with his family. She then tells me I'm being stupid, and she asked, "Who supervises you here in the store right now?" And she actually stomped her foot twice when she shouted "right now." I tell her nobody does. Karen says, "What? Why not?" I tell her because I don't need to be supervised. I haven't needed supervision in a shop since I was about 9 years old. And that's when Karen says, "Oh my goodness, it's like talking to a damn wall." I could see her shouting had attracted a member of management, and she was approaching quickly. And Karen screaming, "Why aren't you helping me?" And that's when I say, "Why would I?" And at this point, I think I saw a slight hint of understanding spread across her puzzled face as she says, "You do work here, don't you?" I say to her, "No." "Then why didn't you effing say so?" I tell her, "You didn't ask me until now." The manager then arrived just as Karen shouts in my face, "You are an effing moron." The manager then says to Karen, "Madam, please lower your voice and stop swearing. There's children in the store." The manager then says to me, "What's happening, sir?" And I tell him I'm not really sure. This woman was being rude to another customer, and then she approaches me and starts to interrogate me about my personal grooming habits. She wasn't happy with my answers, and she started to spit shout at me. Karen says, "No, that's not effing true. I was shouting because I thought he worked here." The manager tells her, "Whether he's an employee or not, you can't talk like that. You can't abuse customers, and we have a strict policy about abuse towards staff. We don't tolerate it." That's when Karen screams, "It's not my fault. He's an effing idiot. Like, if he had told me that he doesn't work here." She was then interrupted by the manager saying, "Please stop shouting." The manager then pressed transmit on her radio and said, "Security, urgent, code 4, aisle 14. The manager then says to me, "Are you okay, sir?" I tell her I'm fine. I just needed birthday candles. Can you tell me where they are? Karen shouts, "What the heck is going on?" The manager tells me they're in aisle 22, and I thank him. I could hear Karen shouting for another 30 seconds, and the next time I saw Karen, I was standing at the self-checkout. She was being followed out of the store by security staff, and she was complaining into her phone loudly about the shop, the staff, and some effing moron as she left empty-handed. Do you think that moron was me? Now, I've been mistaken for staff dozens of times, but I've never had it go so perfectly, and it probably never will again, so don't expect a sequel. Guys, I love how OP dealt with this Karen and basically broke her brain, guys. And seriously, this is how you fight Karens. You either gotta match their craziness or outwit them like OP did. Absolutely brilliant. So this story here just happened 3 days ago. With me, my godson who's a newborn, and my close best friend that we could be sisters. This takes place in Target, and it's kind of chilly outside, and somehow it's a bit cloudy, so I thought we were gonna get cold rain. During the time my best friend came to visit, I was in the midst of getting my godbaby together to take him home, so I told my best friend to come with me. On our way, my godbaby's mom asked if we could pick up some things for him and her from Target. I say, sure, why not? We see Target before we get to her house anyway. And I also needed to get some stuff afterwards, plus one of my favorite cousins works there, so why not get it all at once while we're there, right? So we get to Target, and I have my godbaby in his carrier. Since CJ is only 1 month old, I cover the carrier in a thick enough blanket to keep him warm. Now to describe what we're wearing. Everybody knows that Target's uniform is a basic red shirt with nothing on it and khaki pants. My best friend was wearing a navy blue top with black flare pants and flats, and I was wearing a V-neck burgundy top with flare sleeves with black flare jeans and some sneakers. So we're shopping, checking off things on her list and mine. And then I'm looking over the list on the side of the walking area so I wouldn't be in anyone's way. I was feeding CJ at the same time through the blanket, and I noticed I forgot something a few aisles back. So I asked my best friend to hold his bottle and finish feeding him while I go get the item. So I get to the item looking hard because my glasses tend to slide and fall off a lot. When all of a sudden I hear that classic sound that irritates everyone so bad. The classic Karen ahem. And that's when I turned my head, and there she was. Pixie haircut, sunglasses on top of her head with no damn sun in sight, with a tank top and short shorts knowing damn well it's too chilly outside, and flip-flops. And I'm thinking to myself, is this the Karen uniform or something? But I digress. So I move out of the way, thinking I'm in her way, and continue looking for my item, and she sighs. I can feel her staring burn through my skin, but I wasn't letting up. Then she says, it's really hard finding good help these days. Everyone wants to be lazy. I then roll my eyes and put my head down saying, not today, please, not today. So I find my item and leave the aisle, and now she's mad. And did I care? No. And I think she could sense that. Karen then starts saying, so you're not gonna help me? I tell her no. And she says, and why not? I tell her, ma'am, I don't work here. I give you no indication that I work here. And I'm not on break, it's not my day off, and I really don't work here. I'm gonna leave, put this in my shopping cart so I can pay and leave the store. At that, Karen says, don't you dare walk away from me. I know you're lying. I've seen you here before working. You can't fool me. You just don't want to work. Do I need to get your manager? I then look her up and down and say, yeah, you do that. I then go back to the carts, and my best friend asks me what's taking so long, and I tell her everything from A to Z, and she chuckles. We decide to leave, but then I hear screaming and screeching, and my eyes widen, and my head slowly turns to the right, and that's when I see Karen coming down the wall area with a manager. My best friend asked, is that her? And I say, yeah, that's her. So Karen gets to us still screaming and screeching, and she says, this is her. She should be fired for not helping customers and lying about not working here. I'm a customer. I have rights. I say to the manager, sir, can you please tell her to keep it down? I just put my son to sleep. And second, I've already told the woman that I don't work here. Like, what part of my clothes say that I do work here? The manager then tells her, ma'am, she really doesn't work here. Do you want me to help you? Karen says, yes, you can help me by firing her. I know you're covering for her. I've seen her plenty of times working. If something doesn't happen right now, I'm calling corporate. So of course, from all of that hollering, my godbaby starts crying. So I pick him up trying to calm him down, and now I'm mad. I don't like it when people disturb him, so I snap saying, lady, I told you to keep the noise down because I just put my son to sleep. Now I have a crying baby. Now you need to shut up and move the F on somewhere else. Like, damn, how hard is it for you to comprehend that I don't work here? Get away from us so I can calm my son down. So I guess all that set her off, and she paid absolutely no attention to the fact that I still had my god baby in my arms, because at that point, she launches at me with her arms in the air. And when it came down, she hit me. My glasses slide off, fell onto the floor, and they broke, and now I'm really pissed. I'm beyond pissed. I'm pissed to the highest level of pissitivity, damn it. And then the ultimate happened. So my cousin comes around the corner, and being noisy as heck, when she noticed it was me, she wants to know what's going on. The manager wants to know what's going on. When she said she was my big cousin, both he and the Karen looked at us and saw that we looked so much alike. It was no wonder Karen had us mixed up. So the manager tells my cousin to calm me down because he can see that I'm about ready to fight, as he goes and calls the police. He didn't ask me if I wanted the police called, he just said he was gonna call the police, and that sets Karen all the way off. Karen's screaming while he's trying to pull her to his office, and my cousin calms me down while I'm gently bouncing to put my god baby back to sleep. The police came and I gave them my statement, my best friend gives her statement, and my cousin gives her statement because even though she didn't see it, she heard it and she's a family member. The police say they'll contact me over Karen as he put her in handcuffs and put her in the back of a police car. I told her mom everything and she died laughing. I'm just surprised my best friend didn't say anything the whole time because knowing her, she would have jumped in. Sorry for the long story. So yeah, what a roller coaster of a story, guys, and that woman deserved to be arrested. Like, who in their right mind lunges at somebody and attacks them while they're holding a newborn baby? And who would lie about not working at a place when they do, Karen? Like, is that something that's happened to these people before? Because I've read a lot of stories where Karens are 100% convinced employees are lying to them to avoid helping. So guys, if you're listening and you've worked in retail before, let me know, have you ever lied to a customer to avoid helping them? Or are Karens just delusional? Alright, so I think this one qualifies, even though I did technically work in the same building. You'll see what I mean. So one summer between first and second year of university, I managed to get a job at a pathology lab through a friend who already works there. Basically, if there was something that took no technical expertise to do, then it was my job. Stuff like taking and unpacking deliveries, moving bins, working in the storeroom, all part of my glamorous new job. It paid better than any other summer job I was likely to get, so I was happy to have it. Bizarrely, I was still required to wear a lab coat. This was because of the materials I had to handle occasionally, and the fact that I did have to walk in and out of the actual labs on a regular basis. One of my duties was to change the burn bin every morning. The burn bin contained stuff like used microscope slides, cultures, and anything else gross and disposable that came out of the lab. It was a huge, bright yellow commercial bin on wheels with a lock on it. I had to push it down the central corridor of the hospital, out the side door, drop it off at a pickup point where it was taken away to be burnt, and then drag an empty one all the way back. The main corridor I went down was like the spine of the hospital. There were doors on either side that would take you to various wards and departments. So one day, I'm doing my bin dragging duty, just passing one of the wards, when all of a sudden I hear someone say, "Excuse me, doctor." Now, even though I heard that, I kept moving because it didn't occur to me that they could mean me. But we're on this sub, so you know where this is going. So I hear the angry lady say again, "Doctor, doctor." And that's when my jacket gets grabbed from behind, so I stopped. The angry lady says, "Doctor, I'm sure you're busy, but I have a few questions about my mom, if that's all right." I stare at this woman dumbfounded for a second because honestly, I had no idea how she could possibly mistake me for a doctor in this situation. I say to her, "I'm sorry, miss, but I'm not a doctor." And that's when the angry lady says, "But you are wearing a lab coat." I tell her, "Yeah, I work in the pathology lab, so I have to wear it, but I'm not a doctor." She then crossed her arms. She then looked at me, looked at the blue lanyard with the key card I'm wearing, and she suddenly looks really angry. She then says to me, "Look at you. You have a coat. You have the lanyard. You're obviously a doctor. Just because you're busy doesn't mean you can ignore patients and lie. People like you are why the NHS are in the state it's in." Now, I've never been blamed for the failings of a national institution before, so that was a novelty. I tried to reason with her saying, "Miss, I'm way too young to be a doctor. I'm 19. My lanyard says pathology lab on it, and I'm pushing a bin. I don't know how it could be clearer that I'm not a doctor. So if you'll excuse me, I need to carry on with my job." If you ask on the ward, I would think they'd be the better people to ask your questions. I then take off as fast as a man pushing a large box of disease has ever moved. So I drop off, pick up an empty, and head back towards the lab when all of a sudden I hear, "That's him, right there." The angry lady is now talking to a nurse and gesticulating like crazy, pointing at me. The nurse looks incredibly confused. The angry lady looks at me and says, "I found someone who's actually willing to do their job, unlike some." The confused nurse said, "Miss, I thought you said you spoke to a doctor. That's not a doctor. He's pushing a bin, and he appears to be like 12 years old." Now, I'd love to tell you how the rest of the conversation went, but I wasn't risking getting pulled back into the mess. I just kept going with my bin, and when I got back to the lab, I reported what happened to my manager, in case any complaints came up. You know what, I'm not even gonna blame that Karen, and honestly, I'm gonna give her a pass on this one, because she did a lot better than other Karens, okay? Like, she saw a lab coat, she's in a hospital, probably worried sick about her mom, and she was just frantic for answers. Although she could have handled it better though, and asked, well, who can I ask? Instead of being really mean to OP, who apparently looks like a 12-year-old kid. So this happened to me about 3 years ago, so I don't remember the super fine details. I stopped off at a local Wally World to do some shopping. You know, groceries, cleaning supplies, and some vehicle maintenance supplies. I had went through there like a storm, so the only thing left to get were the groceries, and cue the nice old lady. So as I'm getting ready to grab what I needed, a little old lady comes up to me for help. Keep in mind, the store employee dress code is a collared navy blue shirt, khaki or black pant, and a blue vest with a company logo. I'm wearing a black Metallica t-shirt, light blue jeans, and a black baseball cap. The old lady says, "Excuse me, can you help me? I've been trying to get some help for a while, but all of your other coworkers have just blown me off." I reply, "I'm sorry, but I don't work here." It then takes a minute to see what I'm wearing, and then it clicks, and the woman says, "Oh dear, I'm so sorry. It's just I'm having such a hard time trying to reach this. It's not easy being vertically challenged." It also doesn't help that my back is bothering me right now, so my advice is never get old. I then chuckled a bit after her last line, and I say, "Trust me, you're preaching to the choir." Anytime I ask if they have more of a certain item in the back, the tired excuse I get is, if it's not on the shelf, we don't have it. At that point, I reach up and grab the item she needed and handed it to her. I say to her, "Anywho, here you go." The woman says, "Oh, thank you. I really appreciate the help, and I really hate to be a bother, but could you help me reach some of the other items I can't get? It's really painful for me to bend over." Now I think about it for a minute, and I figured I would do my good deed for the day. So I tell the lady, "Sure, I'll help you out. It's not like any other employees are jumping at the chance to help you, am I right?" The woman says, "Oh, I know what you mean." So I'm helping out the nice old lady, getting things she can't get, getting some of the other things I needed as well, and this carried on for 20 minutes. After she got what she needed, she thanked me for the help and starts making her way down towards the checkout area. I then finished up with my shopping and checked out. I paid for my stuff and left. As soon as everything was in my house, I start putting things away. I was collapsing my reusable bags as I go, and I get to the last bag. I fold up the flap, and to my surprise, there was a $100 bill and a note thanking me for the help and kindness shown. I never saw the nice old lady again after that. Guys, what a wholesome story. And sometimes it literally pays to help someone in need out. And these are the stories I love, guys. Humans just being kind to others in need. And on this day, OP got a little bonus for helping that sweet old lady out. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /IDontWorkHereLady. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy, crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/entitled People episode, where OP's own cousin sues him for not buying him a brand new car. It's such a crazy story, so go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.